This is another video from accounting101.org. Before I get started in this video, we're going to cover stock options and the difference between compensatory and non-compensatory stock options. Now, if you want to see all these videos or tutorials listed in order, you can visit our site at accounting101.org, and there's a link to that underneath this video in the description. Okay, so a stock option is the right to buy stock at a fixed dollar amount in the future, regardless of what happens to the value of the stock. And like I said, we're going to go over two types of stock options. There's compensatory and non-compensatory. So compensatory stock options, as far as those go, there is non-qualified and ISOs, or incentivized stock options. Now, this is where an employee is given the right to purchase stock in the future at a set price as compensation. Now I just mentioned this, there's non-qualified and there's ISOs. Now, as far as the tax consequences of the grant date, the exercise date, and the date of the stock sale, these are a little bit different. Non-qualified, on the grant date, when the stock rights or stock options are given to the employee under a non-qualified stock option, there's no impact. On the exercise date, that is taxable, and on the date of the stock sale, there's capital gain. And I'll explain these in detail in just a minute. Now, on the ISOs, there's no impact on the grant date. There's also no impact on the exercise date. There is an asterisk right here. If you look, it says, this is subject to the alternative minimum tax on the difference between the fair market value of the stock and the stock price. So that would apply if that taxpayer is subject to the alternative minimum tax. And then the date of the stock sale, there is a capital gain as well, if there was a gain. So, a deeper explanation. When a corporation gives non-qualified stock options to an employee, on the grant date nothing happens. There's no tax impact because the employee hasn't received any income. But the day that the employee exercises the option by purchasing stock at the option price, that is taxable, and this creates ordinary income, and the amount is the difference between the fair market value of the stock and the option price paid. The employee's basis in the stock is the amount he or she paid for the stock, plus the income it generated. So those two things added together would just mean that it's equal to the fair market value of the stock on the date of exercise. So then if the stock goes up in price and the employee sells the stock, the gain will be taxed at capital gain rates, but only on the difference between the stock's value on the date of sale and the stock's value on the exercise date. Now, for incentive stock options, or ISOs, there's also no impact on the grant date. There's also no tax impact on the exercise date, but there's a small exception. The exception applies, again, if the taxpayer is using the alternative minimum tax. When the employee sells the stock, however, that will be taxable on the difference between the stock's value on the sale date and the price paid on the exercise date. So here is a graphic of non-compensatory stock options. Under non-compensatory stock options, there are puts and there are calls. Under each one, there's a buyer and a seller. Under calls, there's a buyer and a seller as well. So they're non-compensatory, so it means they're not being used as compensation to employees. These are available to regular investors. There are again, the two types are puts and calls. A put is an option that forces the seller to buy the stock at a certain price. So the buyer is the one who is holding the put option. And if they exercise that, they're forcing the seller to buy the stock at a certain price. So these are used when the investor thinks that the stock price is going to go down. So if they have a put option for $60 a share, and that stock drops to $50 a share, they can exercise their put and the stock will be purchased from them at $60 a share instead of the market value of $50 a share. Now, a call is the opposite. It's the right to buy stock at a certain price. The call holder or the buyer in this example is he or she is gambling that the price of the stock is going to go up, so that, if their option is to buy stock at $60 per share and it goes up to $80 per share, they can buy shares at $60 a share and instantly make $20 profit or a $20 gain per share. Now, again, I mentioned this, but the buyer is the one who holds the option and the seller is the one waiting for a purchase or for that option to be exercised. So again, this is another video from accounting101.org. If you want to see these videos in order and these tutorials in order, as well as the text explanation written out, you can visit the actual site at accounting101.org. There's a link to that below in the description.